Hello friends, a very warm welcome to all of you to Ansarkari, your own channel. In this series, we are going to talk about the Lucy mission, the climate change, very important aspect that rich nations have responsibility towards developing nations, the problem of pharmaceutical pollution, and finally we'll be talking about what is the safe limit for NO2. As we have seen that without conceptual clarity, it's very difficult to have grip of the prelims questions or for that matter any examination, and our goal here is to make ourselves familiar and confident about such approach through a consistent, smart and innovative manner. So let's start. So what the Lucy mission is all about? So Lucy mission, as you can see from the picture, it is launched by the US Space Agency NASA October 16th of the past year. And it is the first spacecraft to be launched to explore what? Can you tell me? To explore what? Trojan asteroids. Trojan asteroids. What are these? These are primitive asteroids. They are primitive asteroids which are orbiting in tandem with which planet I want to know from you. Yes, Jupiter. And the spacecraft will fly, you can say 8 different asteroids including the main belt and 7 Trojan asteroids with the help of different scientific instruments which it is carrying. But the question arises, what it is going to do? What it is going to study? It is going to study the geology. It is going to study composition. It is going to study structure of these Trojan asteroids. So in one way, can we say these Trojan asteroids are the remnants from the birth of solar system? That means this mission can help us in understanding early universe. How it came into being. We are curious to know how the universe came into being, how the emergence of universe took place, all these ideas, because asteroids including Trojan asteroids are remnants from the birth of the solar system. So we will be able to understand and revolutionize our knowledge about the early universe. But the question arises, why the name Lucy? What is Lucy? Who is Lucy? uh, Bollywood, Hollywood star or something like that? Lucy is a very famous human fossil from Africa. I'm going to provide link of the same in the description box. Please do have a look for your understanding. It's an important fact for anthropology, archaeology, and even for human evolution. So, as we were talking about Trojan asteroids, what are asteroids? Asteroids are space rocks. They are space rocks that orbit what? That orbit what? They are orbiting obviously sun, and they are orbiting different planets. They are too small to be called planets. That is why in one way they are called minor planets. So solar system which was born 4.6 billion years ago. 4.6 billion years ago, when a big cloud of gas and dust collapsed. And when this happened, most of the material fell to the center of the cloud, and thus sun was formed. So that is how you can say asteroids are the rocky leftovers from the formation of the solar system. They are a kind of a remnant, as we have already said. They are the leftover of the solar system, and they are formed from different, or you can say small pieces of rocks and metals. Most of the asteroids, I already shared with you that they are found to be orbiting the sun, but between what? Between Mars and Jupiter. And that you can say Mars and Jupiter is the main belt, or it is the main asteroid belt. So let's move forward. Climate rich, I should say, rich nations have the had the responsibility towards developing nations. In case of climate change, the rich nations must acknowledge their historic responsibility. Historic, the key word here is historic. What is so much historic here? In terms of emission, in order to protect developing and vulnerable countries. Why? Can you tell me why? Why they have the historic responsibility? Because they are the largest emitters. When we talk about India, India is the largest emitter after China and the US. So, do you think India is also committed to be part of the solution, or it is the part of the problem? Please think and tell me. Is it part of the problem of the climate change, or is it part of the solution? So India, even by certain UN reports, is working in the directions of providing solutions, credible ideas. That is why it is ambitious. That is why it is having goals which uh, India will be also fulfilling. But the rich nations, because they have already undergone industrial revolution and many were colonial powers, so their living standards, their technological progress, their economic growth must support the developing nations. Otherwise, climate change is not going to be stopped. It is going to reach by the end of the century more than 2 degree, which is definitely dangerous for all of us. So what India can do? India had reached its climate targets. Means I mean to say reached, I mean so it has decided its climate targets. It is moving towards eco-friendly policies. By 2070, it is going to be net zero carbon, and the cost of meeting targets is too high for the developing nations. For example, 2.5 trillion, 2.5 trillion. It isn't easy, but then since uh, India is committed, we are moving towards sustainable development, we are going to work towards it. So the problem is that the emission in the atmosphere is going in a cumulative manner. It is not that it is segregated, that India is emitting this much of carbon, so there will be a different kind of atmosphere, US is doing different kind, so it's a cumulative. So cumulative emissions were the cause of historic problem, so countries need to focus on how much carbon is put in the atmosphere, because it is cumulative. That is why developing nations, they need space to grow. They need space, they need assistance, technological assistance and financial assistance. That is not required by the developed nations. Developed nations must come forward, and that is why developing nations cannot compromise on growth, and they cannot even rely on fossil fuels for their growth. That is why I was saying it is difficult for developing, it is difficult for developed nations to run away from their historic responsibility. Now the problem of pharmaceutical pollution. So recent study by IIT Madras, it found that a range of pharmaceutical pollutants, they are found in Kaveri River. Okay, the problem is very huge, and so many contaminated uh, particles were found. The pharmaceutical contaminants, it include anti, because such contaminants will have anti-inflammatory, antidepressants, and even antibiotics. These contaminants contain these. So these pharmaceutically active compounds are very dangerous. They are active compounds. Okay. Personal care products, cosmetic products, plastics, flame retardants, all these things are there. Heavy metals. What else you can think of? Please add to me. Add to my ideas. Pesticides. These all are mixed with water. So this is a great concern. This is of great concern for all of us because it is just an example and it is true for rest of the major rivers in India also because the river water is used for agriculture, drinking and other purposes. And if you talk about Kaveri, it is the lifeline of both Tamil Nadu and even Karnataka. So there is a long-term impact on human and also on the ecosystem. There must be something done because when the medical residues are found, uh, they are actually polluting the water bodies like anything. There is a growing concern because the lakes, the streams, the wells, and finally all freshwater areas, they will be, polluted. And India is one of the largest pharmaceutical manufacturers in the world. So the point arises that what are the sources? The sources are manufacturing plants, as I just shared with you, manufacturing plants, and the discharge of untreated water. जो direct sewage water है, direct water which is released into the environment. Humans are also to be blamed because our bodies don't use 100% of the drugs that we ingest. Whatever medicine we are having, it is not that 100% fully we are ingesting. Traces of pharmaceutical, they are, exiting our body through excretion and sweat. वो भी जाकर आपके environment में मिल जाता है. It is also creating water body. It is also polluting water body, water supplies, flush toilets. So these are the ineffective disposable methods are really responsible. They must be avoided. That is why standard practices must be used, and even animal husbandry, it must be more scientific, and livestock must also use modern practices. So I have told you a number of sources which are responsible for pharmaceutical pollution in brief. So what is the impact? The impact is making on chemicals going into, you can say, aquatic and even terrestrial environment. Okay, they are going to affect health, behavior, and even wildlife, flora and fauna, I should say in short. Something must be done. Entire lifetime of exposure, even in tiny concentrations, can cause health issues in human body. That has been identified and research done by the United Nations. It found that the presence of antibodies in water, it contributes to drug resistance in human body. So reproductive and developmental issues, reproductive and developmental issues can be a serious issue for us in the long run. So drug companies, what they can do? What is the solution according to you? They must ensure that they treat their wastewater. Treatment should be done. Sewage treatment plants, like thing. Treatment of water before it is released in the open. It is released in the river. It must be done. Or pharmaceutical must give training to the people. The people must be aware that how to dispose unused medicines. Wastewater contaminant levels should be regularly monitored. If we are not going to do that, it is also going to be a global challenge for us in the near future. So next topic is what is NO2? NO2, when we talk about NO2 or nitrous oxide, or nitrogen oxide, it is not in the safe limit. In the capital, when we say capital, we are talking about New Delhi or National Capital Territory. It is not in the safe limit since 2013. So what is NO2? NO2 is a toxic. Do you agree? It is a toxic and it is a highly reactive gas. Toxic and highly reactive gas. And it is formed when the fuels are burned at high temperature. So fuels are burned at high temperature. You can say industries, automobiles, especially trucks and diesel vehicles. They are responsible. And many non-road vehicles like construction equipments, they are also responsible for emission of nitrogen oxide. So industry sources say that nitrogen oxide are essential. Yes, they are essential in some way, but it is actually fossil fuel which is mainly responsible for the emission beyond the safe limits. Even oil and refineries will be also coming. So it is also released when we are working with nitric acid. And one more point I'm adding, it is also released from agriculture production or agriculture sector, you can say. So it is a great issue and a problem for us. But what is the impact? So it is, as a gas, it has no serious impact on health of the people, but through secondary effects. Please remember, not directly but secondary effects through increase in PM 2.5. कौन नहीं जानता है दिल्ली में PM 2.5 concentrations. It is raising and augmentation of ozone formation, O3 or ozone formation, which is linked with the rise in nitrogen oxide. It is a matter of concern. Even if I am going to inhale it in too large quantity, it is dangerous because it is an air pollutant. It is going to impact respiratory, even circulatory and brain system. So interaction of nitrogen oxide with other uh, oxides, with water and oxygen and other chemicals they can present in the atmosphere, it is going to create what? We know that. If I am saying it is nitrogen oxide plus other and nitrous oxides plus water plus oxygen and other chemicals, it is going to create acid rain. It is going to create acid rain, which is going to harm sensitive ecosystems. So that means nitrogen oxide in excessive level is going to harm vegetation, it is going to decrease the crop yield and so on. That is why we must take immediate steps so that it can be in the safe limits. So thank you very much for your patience, for understanding the key concepts. I would advise you to go through previous topics also and try to take notes side by side, and please ask any doubts, questions, and do subscribe and share our channel. Wishing you all the best for success, because always remember, there is no shortcut to success. Thank you very much.